Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about why it is my feeling, my position, that if you have a loved one who is really suffering because of mental health issues, that guardianship is the very best tool that you can use to get them help. And that might include getting them into treatment. It might include making sure they take their medications. If they have finances, money, right, things they could use to flee the jurisdiction of the court, then guardianship is a really, really amazing tool. Now, just to backtrack a little bit, we get calls pretty regularly from people who say, well, I spoke to my estate planning lawyer, I spoke to this lawyer, I spoke to that lawyer, and they tell me that you can't use guardianship for these kinds of things. And if they had asked me that question 10 years ago, I would have agreed with them. But, unfortunately, I have a brilliant wife who's also my law partner, who is basically the guru of guardianship. I mean, she educates other lawyers on how to use guardianship specifically for these cases. Now, I will agree, guardianship was traditionally designed and intended for elderly people, but we have really fashioned the way we use guardianship specifically for folks that are not necessarily elderly. In fact, we don't typically take an elderly guardianship case. We are dealing with people who have a loved one that has a long history of substance use and mental illness. Now, you can also use guardianship for somebody who has a long, standing drug issue, a substance use disorder. And look, these days, when I first started the practice in February of 16, we were seeing people who had really a disorder that related to alcohol use or recreational drugs, marijuana, meth, coke, heroin, I mean, those types of things. Then COVID came along. They legalized marijuana here in Florida for medicinal use. And the next thing we know, we're dealing with cases where there is significant, clinically challenging mental health issues. And sometimes it's chicken or egg. I can't tell you what came first, but there is a very, very strong mental health component to, I think, all of the cases that we now see. And so, while I love Marchman Act because it's, a really powerful, quick tool, I mean, we're a huge fan of the guardianship, and my brilliant wife has tailored the guardianship, that elderly law, that elderly type statute, for the cases that we handle. And we've had tremendous success with guardianship, and it will give you a ton more power and a ton more control than a Marchman Act. And if we're going to do a Marchman Act, which we still do pretty regularly, we're typically doing it with the guardianship. Because if you want max control, because you're dealing with an out of control situation, the guardianship is far more powerful than the Marchman Act. And these days we can get into court pretty quickly on some type of emergency filing, typically 5 to 7 days, sometimes a little quicker, depending on how busy the courts are, how busy the judge is, those types of things. So if you've got a loved one where there's a significant mental health component to their health, guardianship is a great way to do it. But you could probably, if you call other lawyers, and I'm not suggesting you don't, I would encourage you to call as many people as you can. There's going to be a bunch of them telling you can't do this. Really? Well, we've been doing it successfully for the last 10 years and getting great results for clients. But if you want to chat more about how we use the guardianship process to help folks like your loved ones, give us a call, reach out to us. And with that said, I would love a thumbs up with the video. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.